Good morning. Welcome to Northwest, a Unitarian Universalist congregation. My name is Bruce Fowler, and I'm the worship associate for this morning. If you are a visitor here and would like us to stay in touch with you, please fill out the visitor form you will see in the chat box. The chat feature has been disabled except for chatting directly with the tech host. If you are having problems with Zoom, use the chat function or raise your hand function in Zoom. You are encouraged to change your pronouns on Zoom. To change your name, click on the Participants button at the top of the Zoom window. Next, hover your mouse over your name in the participants list on the right side of the Zoom window. Click on Rename. We have a lot of announcements today, but they're all important. First of all, today after the service at 11:30, there's banter with the board. If you wish to participate in that, stay in the main session in Zoom after the service. At noon, the teen shopping trip for Freedom House. There are 12 children that live at Freedom House whose families are refugees from around the world. The teens at Northwest will be shopping to buy toys for each child at Freedom House in Detroit for the holidays. We are also doing an adopt-a-size program for children at Freedom House. We have slots open for folks to sign up to buy warm clothes for the children. To do that, you can use Sign Up Genius or check our website or newsletter. At 1 o'clock today, chat with the minister. Join Reverend Kevin for a chat with the minister, or you can schedule an appointment via Calendly. The meeting ID is 810-553-2508. And it's also, if you decide to do it and you didn't write it down, you can check the newsletter. Upcoming services, on Sunday, December 19th, a week from now at 10:30 a.m. will be What the Grinch Can Teach Us. It'll be live streamed from Northwest with Reverend Kevin. And Eva Leventer, the acting director of religious education, will be participating as well. Ken Hermanot and Eva are creating a holiday video montage of Northwest UU congregants for our multi-generational service on December 19th. We are collecting 1 to 3 photos and short videos of the December holiday traditions, activities, and celebrations from our congregants. Please include the names of the people in the pictures that are sent. Please submit your pictures and or videos by tomorrow, December 13th. And again, you can do that by way of Sign Up Genius or the website or newsletter. On Sunday, December 26th, at 10:30 a.m., there will be Opening to Joy, which will be a Zoom meeting with Diana Kohler being the worship associate. Holiday services and events, there will be a holiday tailgate social in the parking lot at the church from noon to 2 o'clock, Sunday the 19th. And there will be fires, soups and treats, marshmallow roasting, bird feeder making, gingerbread decorating and singing. And you can also pick up your candles and cookies for the candlelight and Christmas Eve services. The candlelight service will be live streamed on December 19th. And you can, let's see, I guess that's that one. On Friday, December 24th, which is, of course, Christmas Eve, there will be lessons and carols, Christmas Eve service. And the Fire of Commitment campaign will begin on Sunday, January 9th. So please join us then during our worship service. We will present the Fire of Commitment video. In it, you will learn about our founder's vision for this church and the work of others that helped build it. You're also invited to attend one of our Zoom social events on Friday, January 14th at 7 p.m. and Sunday, January 16th at 11:30 p.m. And of course, there will be other announcements before that. And for our December plate collections, the December 50% plate collection will be going to the Michigan UU Social Justice Network. And they're a local 501c3 organization. Their mission is to foster the worth and dignity of people by promoting social justice. For that, you text your plate, your amount plus plate to 248-574-8034. The 100% special plate will go to the Southfield Emergency Needs Fund. Due to the continued pandemic, we will not be directly donating food for our annual Christmas baskets or adopt size service projects with the city of Southfield. 100% of this special plate collection will go towards Southfield Emergency Needs Fund to purchase gift cards to give to local Southfield families in need during the holiday season.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Kevin DeBeck. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And our chalice lighting this morning is from the Reverend Maureen Killeran, and she says, "Welcome, you who come in need of healing, you who are confused or have been betrayed. Welcome with your problems and your pain. Welcome to your joys and your wanderings. Welcome your need to hope, your longing for assurance. Instead of answers, here may you find safety for your questions. Instead of promises, may you find community for your struggles, people with hands and hearts to join you in engaging the challenges and changes of our day."
Our opening words are "Come, Come, Whoever You Are" by Reverend Ian W. Riddell. Do you hear that voice calling you, calling us? That voice which calls us together here today in this room, made holy by our presence and by the sacred breath we share in our singing and speaking in silence. That voice which calls us to remember that we are not alone and that we are inextricably linked to all other life, woven into a vast tapestry of existence of which we are a powerful, integral, and holy part. And just as we have been called together here today, we act as the voice, the heart, the hands of another call, the call to walk with the wanderers, sing and dance with the worshipers, proclaim the memory of those who have taken their leave, wrap the despairing and the broken in the arms of love and community, and hold the hands of all of us who have broken our vows and call us back again and again to the covenant and work of justice, humility, and steadfast faithfulness. For this, we are here together today. So, my friends, come yet again. Come, let us worship together. Please join us, sing along, or just enjoy the next hymn, which is number 348, Guide My Feet.
Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain.
Winter Candle by Jaron Ashford, illustrated by Stacy Schuett. Nana Clover checked her list. Turkey in the oven, potatoes peeled, napkins folded just so, candles? How could she have forgotten? Thanksgiving at 3C Juniper Court without candles, unheard of. Down she padded 3 flights of stairs to the super. Candles, Nana see? Asked Trev. He opened a drawer and handed her a lumpy stick of wax. It's not pretty, but it'll burn. Nana Clover spread some pine cones and leaves around the frumpy candle. But the time her Thanksgiving guests arrived, the centerpiece glowed. 2 weeks later, 2G was in an uproar. The Havdalah candle was not there, yelled Nat from the closet. In the kitchen, Mom sighed. I forgot to buy a new one. Avi's lip quivered. But the stars will be out soon. Sha, it's not the end of the world, Grandpa told the Danziger children. Avi, go ask a neighbor for a candle. Up Avi clattered and rapped on Nana Clover's door, and down he clumped with a bumpity, droopy candle. Avi's brother stared. That's not a Havdalah candle, Sam groaned. It's not braided. It's not pretty, agreed Grandpa. But the candle is blessed by what it does and not by how it looks. It'll shine. And shine it did as Mama raised it high. Grandpa said the blessing to the end of the Sabbath. Avi held his hands to the light. They'd never had a Havdalah candle that burned so bright. 4 mornings later, it was 4D's turn for disaster. It's broken, Kirsten wailed. Liv came running. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the St. Lucia's crown, and the 5th one snapped in 2. Our cousins will be here any minute, said Kirsten. How can I be the St. Lucia with only 4 candles? Liv started to cry. No St. Lucia's crown, and no special St. Lucia breakfast. Girls, we have plenty of time, Mama reassured them. Kirsten, go ask your neighbor for another candle. Down Kirsten dashed 2 flights of stairs to the Danzingers and came up with the funniest looking candle the girls had ever seen. Everyone will laugh at me, Mom, said Kirsten. But nobody laughed, because as Kirsten carried in the teapot and St. Lucia buns, the funny-looking candle gleamed as brightly as the Star of Bethlehem. Winter came, snow fell, and presents were exchanged. The new year began, and in 5A, it began with calamity. Jamila's got something in her mouth, Dante hollered, and I don't think it's food. Dad scooped up the baby and stuck his finger in her mouth. And a piece of wax, a bit of string. Oh no, Dante howled. Jamila's ate the faith candle for the Canara. Go see the Ericksons have one. Go see if the Ericksons have one, Sister Monet suggested. Down the stairs, Dante plodded and knocked on the door. You're lucky we will have this one, Kirsten said. She handed him a bedraggled little candle. But Dante didn't feel lucky. How could they talk about faith with that sorry thing? And was that the right color? But when Dad lit the stumpy candle and the candle leaped and danced and invited other 6 candles to do the same. A few days later came the biggest snowstorm of the season. Snow blanketed in the front steps and made drifts in the windowsills, and then just after nightfall, the electricity went out. Flashlight beams flickered in the few windows. In 5B, the newest family on Juniper Street huddled together in the dark. Their clothes were still in suitcases, their dishes were in boxes, and Papa knew somewhere in the city was in a moving truck full of furniture. How will Papa find us? Nazarene asked. The street lights are out. Papa won't find us, cried Frock. There's too much snow. Of course he will find us, Mama said. Nazarene, go to the next door neighbors and get that candle. We'll put it in the window to light Papa's way. Next door, Dante scratched his head. I think there's one left from the Kwanzaa, he told Nazarene. He returned with a lump of wax, and it looked like a fairy tale troll. Nazarene's mother lit the candle and set it on the windowsill. How's Papa going to see the little candle in such a big city? Fox asked. But as they watched, the flame shimmered and grew. It glittered on the falling snowflakes until dark street seemed spun with stars. Many blocks away, Papa slowly steering the truck through the snow-covered streets. What did that sign say? Pine Street, Pine Street. But then Papa noticed a glow up ahead. Maybe someone would be giving him directions. Papa steered left, right, then left, closer and closer to the glowing light. Papa turned the corner and gasped. There was a light right in front of him, 5 stories up, shone warm, welcoming light. He was home. Papa climbed 3 flights, 4 flights, 4, 5, and then Papa's here. Nazarene and Frock flew down the hall and into Papa's arms. Come see our new house, Papa, said Nazarene. And look, everyone's coming too. The little apartment filled with neighbors. Dante's family brought chairs and folding table. Nana Clover made a bed out of blankets for Nazarene and Frock. Trev brought a small heater, and the Erickson girls and their mother made sandwiches. And the Danzingers' pot of soup and on warm camping stove. Everyone welcomed Nazarene, Frock, Mama, Papa to their new home. And the gnarled little candle glowed so brightly in the window that when the electricity finally came back on, no one even noticed. And I'd like to introduce 1054, Let This House Be of Peace. Let this be a house of peace.
Let this be a house of peace, of nature and humanity, of sorrow and elation. inside us. Let this be our house, a platform for the free voice, where all our sacred differences here shall not divide us. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be our house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let all in this house seek truth, where scientists and mystics abide in reverence here. Let this be our house, a house of our creation, where works of art and melodies consecrate the atmosphere. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be our house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of prophecy. May vision for our children be our common theme. Let this be our house of myth and lore and legend, our trove of ancient story and cradle of our tender dreams. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be our house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be our 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 house of peace.
My reading this morning is from the book of Genesis, what Christians call the Old Testament and what Jewish folks call the Hebrew Bible. It's from chapter 31, verses 43 through 55, New King James Version. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, "These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and this flock is my flock. All that you see is mine. But what can I do this day to these my daughters, or to their children whom they have borne? Now therefore come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. Then Jacob said to his brethren, "Gather stones." And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate at the heap. Laban called it Jagard, and I'm not going to pronounce that, but Jacob called it his Gilead. And Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me this day." Therefore its name was called Gilead, also Mizpah, because he said, "May the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent from one another. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us, see, God is witness between you and me." Then Laban said to Jacob, "Here is this heap, and here is this pillar, which I have placed between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness. And I will not pass beyond this heap to you, and you will not pass beyond this heap with this pillar to me for harm. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us." And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and called his brethren to eat bread. And they ate bread and stayed all night on the mountain. And in the early morning, Laban arose and kissed his sons and daughters and blessed them. And then Laban departed and returned to his place. Now, the Bible passage I just read to you is about the story of Jacob and Laban. Laban was a shepherd, and when his nephew Jacob came to ask Laban his permission to marry Rachel, who was Laban's youngest daughter, Laban agreed, but in exchange, Jacob had to work for Laban for 7 years. Now, the custom at the time was that daughters had to marry in birth order, and Rachel's older sister Leah was unmarried. Jacob lived up to his end of the bargain by working with Laban for those 7 years, and then when the night came that he and Rachel would get married, Laban, however, had other ideas. In fact, I would say he kind of pulled a fast one. Unknown to Jacob, Laban snuck Leah into the tent, so Jacob married her instead. In fact, if you kind of read it, it looks like Laban kind of liquored Jacob up so he would pass out and not know who was coming into his marriage tent. So when Jacob mentioned this to Laban, first of all, Jacob was kind of put out by this. He told Jacob that he would let him marry Rachel too if he worked his fields for another 7 years. And by the way, when you hear people talk about traditional marriage in the Bible, this is kind of what they're talking about. Eventually, he does get to marry Rachel, and of course, there's more skullduggery on Laban's part. Now, does this kind of sound like some of the family gatherings you all have had in the past around the holidays, where two family members find new and inventive ways to get under each other's skins? Now, granted, I'm hoping that family disagreements today aren't based on what order the daughters are allowed to get married, but that doesn't make the distrust and the bad feelings any easier to deal with. Now, in the case of Laban and Jacob, what finally stopped the feuding between the two of them is that they made a covenant with one another. That's what they were doing in that passage. They were stacking stones, and this would help them make a covenant with each other. Now, in this case, they covenant that if they had any disagreements in the future, they could return to that pile of stones that they made and remember what they agreed to. And also in their case, whoever crossed the line might be smited by God. The God of the Hebrew Bible was not to be trifled with. So perhaps you're asking yourselves, what does this have to do with families and holidays and everyday life? Through our working and waking life, we live with covenants every day, both written and unwritten. Some of the unwritten covenants that we have are to wait until somebody is done talking before we say something, or holding the door open for the person who's coming in behind you, or, not to go screaming down the aisles of grocery stores, things like that. There are many, many others, but I think you kind of understand the point here. Now, the benefits of a written covenant is that it's a way for a group of people to set the rules of engagement with each other. Unitarian Universalism is a covenantal religion, meaning that we don't have a bishop or a cardinal or anyone else that is kind of in a hierarchical structure above us to tell us what to do or how we need to act. Now, our congregation has a covenant with the Unitarian Universalist Association. Part of that covenant is that we send our fair share to the association to fund the programs that help train ministers, provide support in times of transition, like this congregation is currently undergoing, and if some disaster should strike, provide financial and spiritual assistance until said congregation can be made functional again. Now, our 7, and hopefully someday will soon to be 8 principles are another example of covenants we UUs live by. Ours is also a pluralistic religion, which means we honor and uphold many faiths, not just one. By having the principles we have, it's a way to honor these other faiths and to bring them under the big tent of Unitarian Universalism. Now, at our best, this diversity of spirituality and faith traditions makes us stronger as a whole. And I would even go as far as to say there's the old Vulcan philosophy of infinite diversity, of infinite combinations. Over the course of this next year, we will be having many conversations about creating a congregational covenant which will not only set the rules of engagement among us, but also lets the outside world know It'll also let the outside world know what we will and what we won't stand for. And if someone falls out of covenant or acts in such a way that puts people in physical, mental, or emotional harm, this will serve as the mechanism to stop that behavior and eventually call that person back into right relation with the rest of us. Ask any educator what happens in the first few days of school in the first few days of school starting when the rules or procedures are not well established in that time? The short answer is your school year as an educator will be miserable, because if those ways of being are not established, that teacher will be dealing with chaos the entire school year. Trust me, I have experienced this. There are ways to establish boundaries, and once these boundaries are in place and everyone understands what to expect, then the uncertainty of wondering what to do when somebody gets triggered or loses their head goes away. My hope is that as these discussions are being held, that as many of you as possible will participate in this process. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It only gets better and works well when when a lot of people are involved. And yes, there will be disagreements as we are putting this together, but that's to be expected. Just remember that we are in this together, and anything we can do to help spread the good news of Unitarian Universalism in times such as these will give others hope that there is a better way. I'm also guessing some of you are thinking at this point, well, all that's swell, Rev Kev, but is it realistic that when Uncle Charlie comes through the door on Christmas Eve with his MAGA hat and his t-shirt that has a picture of the American flag with his phrase on it, "These colors don't run," are they going to want to sit down with me and write up a covenant of right relations so we can all get along? Well, of course, the short answer is no. But if you have a wing person with you, or if you intentionally set some boundaries with yourself, maybe you'll be able to enjoy your holiday just a little bit more. And if you're unsure as to what these boundaries should be, here are 4 simple steps for still liking your families of origin once the holidays are over. Feel free to adapt these steps for you or your family. Now, these tools can also work for your church relationships as well. So here's the first one. Know that there will be conflicts or problems, and don't be surprised or avoid it when one pops up. It's an imperfect world full of imperfect people, and mistakes will happen. For instance, my wife tells prospective brides during wedding rehearsals that 3 things will go wrong the day of your wedding, and to be certain that those are not the 3 things that the day will be remembered for. If you know that your mother is going to comment on your weight loss or weight gain, or that your brother is going to flaunt his wealth or ask for a loan, practice a response before you walk into it, so even if you don't use it. Expecting perfection will leave you downhearted. Supposedly it was Voltaire who once said, "Don't let the perfect become the enemy of the good." So when your right-wing cousin starts talking about how he's looking forward to that big, beautiful wall that's going to be built on the southern border when he who shall not be named gets reinstated, it's a good idea to practice a response that will maybe diffuse the situation instead of it descending into a wrestling match that will knock over the Christmas tree. Expecting happiness is attainable because happiness can be carried into any situation. So now here's the second piece of advice. Know what your own boundaries are in order for you to enjoy yourself. Decide what your limits are for how you will be happy, whether that means feeling safe or joyful or whatever the goal is. If you need to make a list, do it. You can't make others behave. Now let me repeat that. You can't make others behave. So plan your own goals for keeping good boundaries. Mine might include knowing that while I love watching animated Christmas specials, my wife may have work that she needs to get done, and my young adult children might have an online date with their pals to play the latest game on their PS5. So instead of me guilting them into watching my favorite specials with me, I'll either watch them when I'm by myself or wait until everybody's calendar is clear. What boundary gets overstepped that ruins your day? Is it food pushers? Have a plan ahead of time. Drink refreshers, keep your glass filled if you want with what you want. Folks who continually show up late, if it is important for you to stick to a schedule, do it, and maybe next time they will realize that you are through with waiting. Or maybe they won't, but at least you know you did what was right for you at the time. Third, be clear about what you need with people who need to know. Whereas here at church in this system, we decide together intentionally how we will behave, most families don't do this. Most of our families don't think too much about what our rules actually are, and if you try to lead your family through some kind of covenanting process regarding everybody's behavior, it might not work so well. Now, once you've determined what your boundaries are, be as clear and as upfront as possible. You might need to explicitly tell your sister-in-law that, permit or not, she may not bring her concealed weapon into your house. You might need to tell your father that the TV will not be on during dinner, so that he is welcome to watch whatever it was he was going to watch afterwards in the den or in some other room of the house. Stick with I statements, such as, I will feel more comfortable if you don't smoke pot in my bathroom, or I don't need a third helping, thank you, but I would like to take some home. Oh, healthy boundaries are about behavior and your behavior and not theirs. And by the way, saying, I think you're being a jerk doesn't really help there. That's not really an I statement. Telling people what we need is difficult because they could decide not to honor your request, or they might fall short even if they are trying to adhere to your requests. Or it might feel to them that the changes you have made seem judgmental if they have not made the same kind of changes, and that's where it might rub up against each other. So with this third step, tell people the things you really need for them to know, but don't go overboard. And the fourth one is the hardest, walking the talk. Model the other three steps without pointing out how healthy and self-aware you are. It might be tempting to walk in your in-laws feeling ready for change because you've made your list and you have a plan to make yourself happy. And you could point out that this year is going to be different, saying, hey, everyone, Rev Keb, who's a new minister, has given me some good guidelines for dealing with people like you. But don't do that. Walking the talk means you must also respect other people's imperfections and their boundaries while realizing that you are also imperfect, even if more self-aware than before. If somebody had asked you to refrain from doing something because it oversteps their boundary, do so gracefully. If you have told somebody about a need you have and they have been accommodating, thank them. When something goes wrong, be like that person who can see all sides of a situation and be inventive. Suggest that the pot smoker might want to lock their stash in their locked car with their concealed weapon, keeping everybody safe inside your home. Knowing that things will not be perfect does not mean doom. Just be aware of who you are and how you feel. We as human beings carry a certain amount of brokenness within us. What might be flipped to one person, it may be a devastating trigger for someone else. We just don't know, and we'll never know. Well, most of the time. But by knowing one's own boundaries and perhaps even having a covenant in place, even if it's up here, it'll help make the rough parts smoother and forgiveness faster with deeper meaning. If COVID has taught us anything, is that life can change on a dime. And what matters most in this life is the love you leave behind, both during the holidays and beyond. Our closing hymn today is hymn number 311, Let It Be a Dance.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you, through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
Our closing reading today is from the Reverend Darcy Rourke, and she says, "There is too much hardship in this world not to find joy every day. There is too much injustice in this world to not right the balance every day. There is too much pain in this world to not heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of the divine presence every day." Amen.